Hey guys, just going to do another Quincy QR 325 update. Pardon my voice, I'm just kind of in the middle of a cold here in the last couple of days, but I'm managing through it. So anyways, what I've done recently is yesterday my brother came over and we pulled this great big flywheel off and replaced the rear seal. And I also took the time to drain the oil and remove the inspection plate cover here and looked inside. Everything looked really good, just except for the fact that there was a lot of oil, thick oil sludge in the bottom. So I wiped most of it out towards the tank drain, or towards the crankcase drain, and then what got is most of what I could, and then sloshed little mineral spirits around there to kind of get rid of most of that sludge. And it looked pretty clean when it was all said and done. So I didn't YouTube that because my brother just decided he didn't want to be on YouTube, so I had to respect his wishes. So that was yesterday. I put the inspection plate cover back on again, and I did order a new gasket, but the gasket that was on here looked like it might have been replaced once before, because it was in really good condition and it wasn't really tough or brittle or anything. So I did reuse it because it actually looked better than the one that I had gotten. So the only thing I did was I took the time to wipe off the inspection cover in the crankcase with some VMP naphtha just to get all the oil and grease residue off there. And then I just also took a clean dry cloth and wiped off the gasket. And then I laid a real thin film of some Permatex RTV silicone gasket maker on the two mating surfaces and sandwiched the original gasket between the two. So, and then tighten it up nice and evenly. And so far, since I'm running it, it hasn't had any leaks. So I just got done today removing the bottom plug on the tank, and I put a street elbow in there, and then a 12-inch long nipple, and then a 1/2-inch ball valve here. This is the original tank drain, which I can't even get open. The only way I can open is with the channel lock. So I'm doing away with that. And I always thought that if you could drain condensate directly from the bottom versus trying to lift up from the bottom with air pressure like this one here, you get a much better or much drier tank. Supposedly this one here, there is a copper or a brass tube that runs from this port down to the center of the tank, and it's perforated. And I can kind of see how the concept works, but then again, why reinvent the wheel when you can use this gravity to drain your water along with air pressure. So this is the way it's going to be set up for now. I may add a automatic tank drain yet, the electric tank drain. And if I do that, what I'll do is I will remove the 1/2-inch ball valve here, put a T in there, and then put the ball valve on one side and the tank drain on the other side. If the tank drain ever fails, I still have a ball valve to go back to bypass. So and yesterday I also put the new belts on. These are a BX71 made by Best Torque. I get them from a supplier in Sioux Falls, South Dakota that calls themselves V-Belt Supply, and I get these belts for about less than $10 a piece. Now if I go to an automotive store or something like that, I'll pay twice as much for a single belt. So I got two belts delivered to my door for about 25 bucks. So got the belt guard put on. As you can see, it's still open on the back side. I decided not to put on the two halves on the inside, just for the simple reason it's an extreme pain in my that belt guard back on with both halves, because the way it works here is that hole there, and there's a hole right there, there's one right there, another one there, then there's some more down the bottom. A couple of them you can get it with a nut driver, and then some you can't, so you have to use like a 1/4-inch wrench. See, here's two more, but there's actually one up here someplace, and then there's a couple down there. So it's not a real friendly belt guard to take on and off. I'm not sure exactly what Quincy was thinking. I mean, it was a very safe guard. You couldn't get your fingers in anywhere, but it was an extreme pain in the to take on and take off. So I knew that when I took it off that it wasn't going back on. So got the new magnetic starter mounted and wired, and I did result in using the original pressure switch still. Long story short behind that is I was going to go get a new one Friday after work. Called the guys who's going to get it from their a compressor repair shop, and their website says they're open from 8:30 to 5:30, and I called them Friday morning, probably around 10:30, and made sure that they had something that I needed. And they said, "Yep, we've got one that'll work for you." And I asked them how late they're going to be there, and they said, "Well, it's Friday, we'll be here till about 5." I said, "Okay." I said, "I get off work at 4:30. I said, I'll be there shortly before 5. I got there about 6 to 7 minutes before 5, and they were closed, and I was a little pissed. There was no reason for that, especially when your website and your voicemail and on your front door says you're open till 5:30 Monday through Friday. There's no reason why you can't monitor or maintain your own hours. So anyways, I'm resulting in using that right now. I did adjust the pressure switch, by the way. It originally was set up for 90 psi cut in and 120 psi cut out, and I did move it to 145 cut in and 175 cut out, and it works great. Before I get to that though, I've got the magnetic starter wired to that, and the way it works is basically through here. Let me take that cover off here a second. Okay, so the way this works is, and I got this turned off, by the way. I've got this dead switch here, kill switch actually, just a magnetic starter. Anyways, the way this works here is that these two wires here, one goes to the power source and one goes to the coil with that blue connector. And basically what it does is, this pressure switch is basically just an on and off switch. It just makes or breaks the voltage that goes to the coil. So pretty simple process. I did have to scratch my head a little bit on wiring that, because it's been a while since I've wired a magnetic starter, but I got it to work perfectly on the first try. No sparks, that's a good thing. So got some number 10 brush wire coming up from the motor, one to the overload and then one to the other side of the contactor, and it works great. So okay. And I did do the acid test to this compressor. After I had the pressure switch set for 145 to 175, I had temporarily mounted a small regulator here, and then a 1/4-inch air hose. Actually, there's a setup right there. Air hose goes over to my workbench, and let the compressor fill up to 175 psi. Let it shut off. Started using my air sander, and what I discovered, it takes well, first of all, the air sander runs at 90 psi and draws about 15 CFMs at 90 psi. So with that being said, I started using the air sander, and it took 1 minute and 51 seconds to get the compressor from 175 to 145. Once the compressor started, I continued to run the sander like I was normally, as if I was sanding a cabinet or a door, and it took 2 minutes and about 38 seconds. I don't remember the number offhand, but it was like less than 3 minutes to catch up and actually shut off while I was continuing to draw 15 CFMs at 90 psi. So this compressor more than exceeds my expectations. I thought it would kind of catch up, but not as quick as what it did. So it's been a great investment so far. So other than that, we're gonna fire them up here and let them fill up a tank. And I don't remember what the fill-up time is from 0 to 175 psi, but I do know that when the compressor starts with no air being drawn, it takes about 1 minute and 2 seconds to shut off. So it takes, like I said, 1 minute and 2 seconds for 30 psi from 145 to 175. So, all right, I'm going to mount the camera here, and we'll fire it up. Well, this could possibly conclude the Quincy QR 325 compressor updates. I'll probably do one last one yet after I get the compressor installed in its location. Other than that, pretty much done with it. The only thing that I probably will do yet is, I did mention earlier about adding an electronic tank drain. And you can get all sorts of them on eBay and some other cheaper websites, but most of them are only 110 or 115 volt tank drains. I did find one at Granger's that they do make a 220 volt tank drain. Now those of you who are not familiar with how an electronic tank drain works is basically it's this electric solenoid valve that runs off an electronic timer, and you can set the purge time and the cycle time. The purge time on a lot of them is from 0.5 seconds all the way up to I want to say maybe like 15 seconds maybe. And then the cycle time is anywhere from 5 minutes roughly to 45 minutes, and that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You just basically screw it onto the end of your tank drain, or on the end of a long nipple on the bottom of your tank, and plug it in, and you're good to go. The problem I've got with that is I don't see any reason to continue to drain the tank when you're not using the compressor. So that means you actually have to go either turn it off or unplug it. And being that this is kind of in a remote location from the shop, I want to kind of make it fully automatic. So the best way, and probably the right way to do it is, if I want to use the electric tank drain, is use a 220 volt model. And what that'll allow me to do is to tie into the bottom side of the contactor here, and which will only allow that tank drain to cycle while the contactor is energized while the motor is running. So this way it won't purge around the clock, because if it continues to purge around the clock after days, it will actually draw enough air and make the compressor cycle for no apparent reason. So I could go with a pneumatic version, but I'm not 100% sure how they work, because I know a lot of them you see they actually work with a centrifugal unloader, but being that this Quincy 325 is a hydraulic unloader, I'm not sure how that works. So I'm just going to stick with the basic electric tank drain and use a 220 volt model and run off the bottom side of the contactor. Now there's probably another way if I wanted to do it right, where I could involve another just a generic contactor or relay, where I can have a 220 volt coil and then a 110 volt contact. But then again, it's another extra money that I shouldn't have to spend. The cost of a 220 volt automatic electric tank drain is only a few dollars more than 110. So I'm going to go with the 220, and I should be done with this project. So it's done 35 plus years of service, and hopefully I can get another 20 out of it. So this has been a fun project. I hope you enjoyed watching these videos, and I will continue to keep you posted on any updates. Thanks for watching.